Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of episode 3 of Sunny. Please, no book spoilers in the comments. This episode is titled Hinoki. This is actually the first line said in the episode by this new character of Hime. She's recognizing that scent. And she also says, I had a boyfriend back in the day who wore Hinoki. Her boyfriend at the time was 10. And she references her stubborn old father who won't stop working. Now, my theory of this might be the gray-haired man we saw in the first episode that was handing out chips. But you see the vendor here is clearly terrified of this woman, while there's obviously screaming going on and someone's being tortured in her shop, and he's getting tortured with a drill. So it establishes this new villainous character in Hime. Now, she gives a replacement pinky finger. Very interesting, very strange opening to an episode, but that's what I'm loving about this show so far, is how weird it's getting and that the mystery keeps cooking up. I also think that what's going on with the show with Masa being painted more and more as he was up to something really bad, and that Susie's learning about him and all these dark things, I think it's a misdirect. Because if they're doing it so overtly, I feel like there's so much more we need to learn about Masa, and that she's going to learn that maybe something was wronged against him, that he ended up in this situation. Also, at the same time, this mystery man with the ponytail is still spying on her with this home bot, and we learn from his spy bot that she hasn't left the house in weeks. She is mourning her husband, Masa, who now she believes is dead because that same homebot gave her those yellow shoes of Masa's. But is he really dead? Probably not. Also interesting, just talking about mystery men characters, there's also a character in this episode who follows Sunny and Susie down the road when they first go to see Mixie in his truck. So someone, it just seems like, is always watching her every step. So I also like there's like very subtle humor in this show. For example, you see with Noriko, where she is with her best friends, and these are the ones that were playing video games with her. And she learns, though, if she postpones Mace's funeral again, they're not going to be there. So this is what actually makes her really go, okay, you know what? We're doing the funeral tomorrow. But she learns from Sunny that Susie's not coming out of her room, and this will trigger Noriko to thinking about a flashback when Masa was practicing solitude, which he had explained in the flashback from last episode to Susie. I love the cool camera whip transition into her thinking about the past in that moment, and was giving him food while he's in solitude. You can also hear him drawing, so he's obviously drawing some robot plans, probably drawing in that notebook. I love when Noriko comes over and tells Sunny that the funeral is tomorrow and Susie's to wear her mother's pearls. She just says she's gonna wear these to the living room, but Noriko is met with resistance from Sunny. And you see Sunny's getting a little more aggressive and more personality as the show goes on, and getting attached to Susie and protective of Susie. I also love something they set up here that had a great payoff, where Susie at one point says to Sunny, don't you have supersonic hearing? And Sunny says, I try not to abuse it. So in your mind, you're like, okay, we're definitely going to have something happen with that supersonic hearing. That will happen later on when she's just listening to the conversation of Susie and Mixie in the living room, which we'll get to. Now, Noriko has Sunny give Susie the drawing Masa made of the logo, which leads Susie to look up that exact drawing to make sure it matches the dark code logo, which it does, and it leads to the dark web here, where we're seeing sites like weaponizing the bots and really graphic robot porn and how to control them for sex. And in the creepiest moment of the show yet, Sunny says out of nowhere, you know I would never hurt you, right? Logically, if I wanted to do that, I would have done it already. So it's that classic creepy moment we see of a robot, which we've seen in movies and shows before. Just really terrifying the way Sunny says it. There's also a little moment here that goes by quick, but it's definitely important, where Noriko, when she's making funeral plans for the home arrangement, that she calls a number titled do not answer, and she freaks out and hangs up. So someone very important she's afraid to call, that she wanted to invite to this funeral but just can't. Now, I think this actually is Hime, and that maybe she does know Hime, and Hime didn't just show up hearing about the funeral, and there's more obviously that Noriko knows. She's come off like that character is just hiding a lot. It also makes me think that this ex-boyfriend of Hime's was Masa when they were 10, and that's why Noriko is sensitive to it, that there's still something there where she likes Hime, but she knows Hime does terrible things. It was maybe a bad influence on Masa. Now, when Susie is going to see Mixie, they subtly remind you she's still a mess about Masa because she's wearing one of his shoes. But she'll open up to Mixie about the plane crash and wants to know more about bots from her because she's had experience using this dark coding. Now, they go to Susie's, and Susie has a great line when Mixie recognizes the symbol that is in the drawing. Susie says, "Apparently my lifestyle has been afforded by robot sex and murder." Rashida Jones delivers lines like that perfectly. And Mixie then says she would robot murder someone for this chair alone. So I love the little humorous lines they throw in this show. They don't overdo it either, which I like. Sunny will overhear Mixie talking about her, saying things like, "Can't you just get rid of it?" And she throws her food out. And you see that's the supersonic hearing happening. And she throws Mixie crickets and says, "Salt's the silent killer, so I'm sure happy to get you some soy sauce." But you'll see Mixie warns Susie she's just scratching the surface about all this, but you don't want to F with the bottom. It's dangerous. There's sharks down there. So I think obviously that's where Hime is and probably someone above her. Now we meet this character at the sex shop, Takumi, who gave the legal code to Mixie. When Susie mentions this code to Takumi, he panics like the underground coder did in the last episode. But they take advantage of him having a crush on Mixie and get him to spill the beans of who they could talk to and where to go. But poor Takumi later on, I love this moment where a man will show up, he's in trouble, to the sex shop, who's like, "You had visitors," and there's this great crash zoom on Takumi's reaction. Now when they get to this location, you'll see that right from the start when they ask for Tendo, Hime is watching them. And she says, "Make sure Tendo knows what to do with them." She purposely just allows Susie down to the robot fights, which, who had robot fights? I'm not going to say on their bingo card, it's the most overused statement in the past 5 years, but who had robot fights on their day planner? Meanwhile, while this is happening, Sunny is robo-napped by a stranger, and when she goes down, it's literally like a fight club downstairs of robots. But the ringleader calls it Junk League. So this triggers Susie because she has a flash of her son and husband doing like a sumo wrestling in the living room, which she called Junko League. So connecting this is going to raise her fear even more that Masa was behind this, and her world literally spins as does the camera. And she can't believe she's hearing the name of something she used to say, representing something so awful like robot fighting, which is like chicken fighting. I really love the flamethrowers here. That was really cool. I love how this came out of nowhere too. I think it's just really cool to have the robot fights in this. It was very interesting. I love also one guy tries to get hit by one, but they say that these robots are programmed not to hurt anybody, but I'm sure that's always something that never works out. But then Sunny comes in for the next match. Hemi wants her to fight, but Sunny pushes her. So we're seeing again more and more resistance and more personality coming out of Sunny and aggressiveness. And her fake pinky comes off, and they zoom in on that. So that's interesting too. I don't know what the deal is with that pinky, but I'd love to hear you guys' theories on that. And they're able to get out of there. And then the big reveal at the end is when they go to Masa's funeral, Hime shows up. So if Hime knew Masa really well, they want you to think it was as an associate. Still probably is as an associate, but I think there's more to that. I do think he was her boyfriend when they were, like they said, around 10, and that was his scent. And I feel like there'll be some connection to that Cypress scent that may be a way Susie figures out the connection of Masa to Hime a little more than just associates, and that she was even invited to this funeral. So I really like the introduced character of Hime. I think it just adds even more to this mysterious show, adds more stakes, and it adds more mystery. And I think, yes, it's a short episode. It's only 30 minutes, but it was a really fun 30 minutes. I don't think it lost any quality from the first 2 episodes. I think it was just as good. And I'm really excited right now. This has been one of the most surprise shows for me that I'm just enjoying. I'm really enjoying the mystery. And I feel like if you're just a fan of Apple TV sci-fi, they just keep killing it with it. And this one feels even more like Severance than any of them. So I really am just excited what's going to come week to week. And Rashida Jones is killing it. And I love this actress of Mixie as well. So let me know what you thought. Giving this one a 9. I'd love to hear all your opinions on it. No book spoilers, please. Give me your theories for what's to come. And please subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of House of Dragon. I also do celebrity interviews as well. And I'll see you next time.